Friday, Friday, Friday is my favorite day. Oh, yeah. Happy Friday, everyone. Good morning. And we are on to another book in our text series about the passage of time. Today's book is about seasons and how people might experience seasons differently all around the world. A couple things to think about before we begin the book. There's going to be several poems that you listen to in this book. I want you to kind of take note. What are your favorite poems? What did you like about the poems? And then there's also these interesting little sidebars throughout the book that give you additional information. It's an informational text in addition to some of the poems. So think about how this helps you to understand the book and maybe what the book would be like without them. Yeah. All right. Okay, here we begin. Our seasons. When the earth is cold, we long for the butterflies, yet in warmth want snow. Why do we have seasons? Did you know that the earth is tilted as it revolves around the sun? If you drew an imaginary line through the earth's poles, this line, the axis, would be tilted at an angle, not straight up and down. The tilt of the axis never changes, so part of the year you are facing the sun more directly, and part of the year you are not. Which season you experience depends on where you live and on the time of year. When your part of the earth is tilted toward the sun, it receives the most direct sunlight. We've talked about this actually quite a few times in class. We've gotten out our big globe. We've seen a little bit about, do you remember in class one time, I showed a video of what summer looks like up in the Arctic and where the sun was just kind of skirting the horizon and it never left the horizon. When your part of the earth is tilted towards the sun, it receives the most direct sunlight and heat. The days are long and the nights are short. It is summer. When your part of the earth is tilted away from the sun, it is winter. The days are short and the nights are long. There are times when the earth's axis is not pointing toward or away from the sun. This causes the less extreme seasons of spring and autumn. We can see here, when we are pointed down towards the sun, it's summer. And when we are pointed away, it's winter. And kind of those in-between times, like right now during the year, in between the extremes of summer and winter, we have spring and fall. Autumn. Punching the blue sky, the wind shows off its power. Kiki almost flies. What makes the wind? Air moves when there's a difference in air pressure from one area to another. Air pressure is the weight of the air pushing down from above. Most differences in air pressure are caused by the sun's heat. So, if the sun heats up an area of the earth, that area's air expands as it grows hotter and pushes, it creates an area of high pressure that pushes wind elsewhere. Now, if you think about wind a lot, and I do, you'll notice that it's usually windiest, especially in the summer, in the late afternoon. That's when it's hottest, and there's the most air disturbances caused by the heat from the sun. Because the sun heats the earth unevenly, the air is warmer in some places than it is in others. Warm air doesn't press down as much as cold air, so we say it has low pressure. Cold air has high pressure, dense air, high pressure. When air is cooled, it shrinks and sinks. When air is heated, it expands and rises. As warm air rises, cold air flows in from the surrounding areas to replace the rising air. Air always moves from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure. When air moves, you feel it as wind. Golden leaves flutter. Kiki tries to rake them all, but they keep falling. Why do leaves change color? The colors of leaves depend on what kind of pigments they have in their cells. Pigments are tiny spots of color. Leaves are green because their cells are full of a green pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll helps plants use sunlight to make food. The leaves of many plants are full of red, yellow, and orange pigments as well. During the spring and summer, when leaves are busy making food, chlorophyll, it hides the other colors. In the fall, the leaves stop making chlorophyll and the green color goes away. What you see are the other beautiful pigments shining through. Kiki sees her breath. She pretends she's a dragon, blowing out hot steam. That's so funny that book says that. When it's cold out, and especially when I was younger, I used to think the same thing. I would pretend I was a dragon and was blowing out fire, but what came out just looked like smoke. It was actually water vapor. Why do I see my breath? No matter how cold it is outside, your body is always a steady, warm temperature. When you talk, you breathe out warm, moist air. Your breath mixes with air outside your mouth. On cold autumn days, your breath mixes with cold air. When the warm, moist air meets the cold air, it condenses, turning into teeny tiny water droplets. You see these tiny water droplets as a faint white cloud. Winter. Owen tastes the snow, swallowing, he licks his lips. Needs sugar, he says. The air around you is full of water. The water is in a form of a gas called water vapor, so you can't see it. High in the sky, where the air is cold, the water vapor turns into tiny droplets of water that you can see as clouds. Clouds are made up of millions of water droplets. In winter, when it is very cold, the water droplets and clouds freeze into ice crystals. Over time, these crystals get bigger and form beautiful snowflakes. When the crystals get too heavy to stay up in the air, they fall to the ground as snow. A lacy curtain has been drawn on the window by the frost artist. Why is there frost on the window? When water vapor touches a very cold glass surface, it turns into ice, making frost. Once the first ice crystals have formed, other crystals slowly begin to grow out into patterns that look like feathers, ferns, and swirls. Some of you that were on a live session with me this last week, when Noah asked the question, how do crystals grow? And we saw a quick video about crystals growing in time lapse. That was kind of cool to see. The patterns that frost makes depend on many things, including temperature and wind. Even tiny scratches or bits of dust in the glass can affect the frost pattern. Frost forms best whenever the air is very still. If the conditions are just right, the frost may look like a large, sparkly painting. Owen's cheeks turn red from the cold lipstick kisses given by the wind. Why do my cheeks turn red in the cold? When you have been playing out in the cold for a long time, your cheeks turn a nice rosy color. This is your body's way of protecting you from freezing. At low temperatures, the blood vessels in your face open up to let more blood flow through. Blood carries heat to your skin and helps you stay warm. When more blood flows through your cheeks, they turn red. spring. Lily hears thunder. You don't have to yell, she calls. Still the sky grumbles. What makes a thunderstorm? When warm, humid air quickly rises high into the sky, it cools and condenses into giant clouds. Do you remember what those clouds are called? Cumulonimbus. Electrical energy builds up inside of the clouds and is released as bursts of lightning. A streak of lightning contains an enormous amount of energy and heats the air around it to many times hotter than the sun. This intense heat causes the air to expand so quickly that you hear the expansion as a loud boom, thunder. Because light travels faster than sound, you see lightning before you hear thunder. Thunder, lightning, strong winds, heavy rain, and sometimes hail are all part of the awesome power of a thunderstorm. Here in the garden, Lily looks like a flower. The bees are confused. Why do bees like flowers? Wow, we just had this lesson in mystery science. Bees gather the nectar and pollen that flowers make. Nectar is sweet, like sugar water. Pollen is a fine powder. The nectar is turned into honey. Some of the pollen is fed to baby bees. New baby bees start to hatch in spring when there are plenty of flowers. The rest of the honey and pollen is stored away as food for the winter when there aren't many flowers to visit. The wind has fingers that tickle Lily's pink nose. Achoo! She sneezes. Why do I sneeze? A sneeze is a sudden burst of air through your nose and mouth. You sneeze when something is irritating or tickling the insides of your nose and mouth. Sneezing is the body's way of getting rid of whatever is bothering it. In the springtime, you might sneeze a lot if you're allergic to pollen. During the spring, blooming trees and other plants release large amounts of pollen into the air. If you are allergic to pollen, breathing it in causes your body to overreact. Your body produces different kinds of chemicals to help fight off the invading pollen. These chemicals irritate your nose and make you sneeze. Summer, clinging to Kevin. Damp air refuses to move, even with a fan. Why is the air sticky in summer? Water is always evaporating. Water is always evaporating from oceans, lakes, rivers, and other sources into the air. The higher the temperature, the more water that goes into the air. Therefore, when it is very hot in the summer, the air can get very moist or humid. Air movements can bring moist or dry air across long distances. When it is hot, you usually sweat. Sweat evaporates from your skin and takes heat away from your body, making you feel cooler. When it is humid as well as hot, it takes more time for your sweat to evaporate because there is already a lot of water vapor in the air. The sweat stays on your skin and you feel not only hot, but sticky too. This is something we don't have in California, at least not in the parts of California that I've been to. I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think we have fireflies in California. In the night's darkness, tiny lights are flickering. What strange flies are these? Why do fireflies glow? Fireflies are beetles with special structures called lanterns in their abdomens. Chemical reactions produce light in the lanterns, making the fireflies glow. Fireflies use their glow mainly to communicate. Different species of fireflies flash different signals, much like coded messages. They use the light to signal where they are, to discourage predators, and to warn other fireflies of danger. The sun cooks Kevin. He turns brown like baked cookies. I'm all done, he says. Why do I tan? Hmm. Everyone's skin makes a pigment called melanin. The more melanin there is, the darker the color of the skin. When you are out in the sun, your skin starts to make more melanin. Melanin shields your body from the damaging rays of the sun. When your skin makes more melanin, it turns darker and you get a suntan. When you stay out in the sun for a long time, your skin can't make enough melanin fast enough. That's when you get a sunburn. Hmm. Now here's a very special page. I want you to think about this page. Does everyone have 4 seasons? Does everyone have 4 seasons? Yeah. Think about what the book would be with or without this page and why it's important. Not every place has 4 seasons. In some parts of the world, there are only 2 seasons. For example, if you live in the tropics, the tilt of the Earth's axis doesn't affect you as much. The sun hits you in about the same way every day, so the temperature stays about the same all year. But the amount of rain changes enough that there is a dry season and a wet season. If you live near the Earth's axis at the North Pole or South Pole, the temperature is always cold, but you have a light season and a dark season. This means that for the part of the year when the axis is pointing at the sun, you have 24 hours of light a day. You remember that video that we showed in class? On the other extreme, when the axis is pointing away from the sun, you live in complete darkness for 24 hours a day. Many places in the world have an autumn, winter, spring, and summer. What's your favorite season? Here's a glossary for some vocabulary terms that we can get used to. Abdomen, the part of an insect that contains the main organs needed for digestion, located below the thorax. For us, we would say our abdomen is right here, kind of hiding our stomach. Air pressure, the weight of air pushing down from above. Chlorophyll, a green pigment in plant cells that gives plants their color. Condensation, when water vapor in the air turns into liquid water. Condense is the opposite of evaporate. Evaporation, when liquid water turns into water vapor. Melanin, a dark pigment responsible for color in hair, skin, and eyes. Nectar, a sugary liquid produced by flowers that attracts pollinators. Pigment, a chemical that gives plant and animal cells, such as those in fur, hair, skin, eyes, and leaves, color. Pollen, we know all about pollen now. Pollen dusters, a fine powder produced by the flower of seed plants. It carries the male cells of the plant. Species, a related group of organisms that share unique characteristics. And water vapor, water in the form of a gas. All right, guys, that is our seasons. Happy Friday, and I'll see you in office hours in a little bit.